Where is 5-year-old Harmony Montgomery? What happened to her? These are questions that have remained unanswered for more than 3 years in Manchester, New Hampshire. Harmony's parents were not together, and she lived with her father, Adam, and her stepmother, Kayla. But sometime in the fall of 2019, Harmony vanished. But no one said anything. There was no call to police. There was no alert. There was no search. Just a little girl missing and no one looking for her. That changed in late 2021 when her mother reported her missing. The search was intense, the investigation exhaustive, but the results not complete. Harmony was never found, but her father Adam was charged with her murder. He's on trial now for weapons charges, but we are learning a lot more about Harmony's tragic life from the testimony of witnesses, including her stepmother, Kayla. Tonight, we take an in-depth look at the life and disappearance of little Harmony Montgomery. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. I want to begin by showing you a picture and asking you a question. Why was Harmony smiling? You know, I look at this picture and, you know, she seems happy. And you look at her life and you wonder, how could she have been happy? How could she have been happy? The life that she was dealt, and the cards that she was dealt in her life, like, how could she be smiling? Yet she was. Speaks volumes about the perseverance of children and how they come into this world and how they just want to experience things and be loved. And they're born happy. Smile for the camera, you know? But her life was not the life a child should have. And there's many different reasons. One major reason is her father, Adam. Bad guy, worst father. And I'm not even judging the murder charges. I'm just judging from what we know as a fact. She went missing in 2019. He didn't say anything, didn't make a call, didn't do anything. That by itself makes you a horrendous parent or step-parent, by the way. A child is missing, you don't do anything, you don't say anything, you don't look for her, you don't, just move on. Just continue living your life, doing whatever you're doing. But this was the man who was in charge of Harmony. This is the man who got custody of Harmony because Harmony's mother battling a drug addiction. So this is the guy who was in charge. And this is the guy that she looked towards. This is the guy that she trusted. Not a good guy. So what exactly was her life like? And that's something that we want to take a look at tonight. To understand the life that she was living, what happened around the time that she disappeared, and prosecutors believe she was murdered. And then, what happened in the search for her? Where are they looking? What does the evidence show us? We're going to go through all of that in this next hour. And one of the reasons we're doing it now is that her father, Adam, is on trial. Not for her murder. He's charged with that. That's coming up. That's around the corner. But he's on trial for being a felon in possession of weapons, being a career criminal in possession of weapons. So there's a lot at stake for him, a lot of years behind bars. But during the course of this trial, we're also learning more. And that's because Harmony's stepmom, Kayla Montgomery, is testifying. And what exactly does she know? To me, she knows everything. I believe from the beginning she would know everything. They weren't living in the Taj Mahal. They were living in a very modest home with a mom, a dad, and some kids. And one of the kids goes missing and you don't know anything? Come on. She knows everything. I believe she knows everything. about what happened inside that home and what happened to that little girl. So we'll see. So she's testifying in this weapons case, and part of the testimony is very relevant to the life of Harmony and gives us some insight into what that life was like. Being a child in the home of two drug addicts who care more about themselves than their children. Two people who did absolutely nothing when this girl went missing. Probably because she didn't, go missing. Like, if your child disappears, you're going to reach out, you're going to say something, you're going to call, "Oh my goodness, I need help. Help me find my child." That didn't happen. And why didn't it happen? Common sense tells us why. But prosecutors have to prove it in a court of law. We know that. But Kayla Montgomery is testifying in the weapons case because she's there. She's got her own legal problems. She's cutting deals left and right, trying to keep herself out of prison as much as possible. But the testimony is giving us a peek inside the home. Let's take a listen.
Where did you live back in October of 2019?
I was living at 77 Guilford Street in Manchester, New Hampshire.
How long did you live there?
For about a year and a half.
For a year and a half. Why did you stop living there?
Because we got kicked out of the house.
Was that an eviction?
Yes.
Do you remember what month and what year that was?
November 2019.
When you lived at the 77 Guilford Street address, who did you live with there?
It was myself, Adam, Seamus, Declan, and Harmony. I was working up until November 2019 at Dunkin' Donuts. I would work 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Adam would be home with the kids while I'm at work, and he would drop me off and pick me up from work because I didn't have a license. And then after he would pick me up, I would be at the house with the kids, and he would leave some nights because we were using drugs.
When you say we were using drugs, what do you mean?
Like getting high, using heroin and crack and weed. I know that there were people at the house that came so that we could buy drugs off them, and Adam was showing them to those couple of people that came by, trying to sell them. And I remember I was taking care of the kids, and I was looking to see what was going on in the living room from the kitchen, and it was just chaos in that house at that time, that same night.
Why is that? Why was it chaos?
It was just a lot of people going in and out, and taking care of the kids at the same time. It was, I don't even know.
And I think you said that night. Are we talking about nighttime?
Yes.
So the incident that you're describing, were you already aware at that point that the guns had been stolen from the Frayne house?
Yes.
All right. And you said people had come to sell drugs?
Yeah.
Was that to you or to someone else?
to Adam, but I was going to be doing the drugs too.
Okay. So they came to sell drugs to Adam. You were going to do the drugs as well.
Yes.
And it sounded like you said he offered to sell them the firearms?
Yeah, to trade them or buy them.
Firearms, drugs. Oh, and we were taking care of the kids. You're not really taking care of the kids. You're not. I understand you got a drug problem. Whether you get help or don't get help for it, you can still pick up the, you know you can't take care of those kids, and you know you're not taking care of those kids. Do something. Reach out for help. Give the kids a chance. They didn't. They didn't give Harmony a chance. Let's bring in our guest tonight. Joining us tonight from Jacksonville, Alabama, forensic death investigator, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, and host of the very popular Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan is with us. Also joining us tonight in Michigan City, Indiana, founder of Victims News Online. Check it out. She's also a former private investigator. Erica Morse is with us. And from Boston, Massachusetts, Boston 25 reporter has covered this story in depth from the beginning. Bob Ward is back with us as well. Great to see everyone tonight. Bob, this is like a house of horrors for these kids. And it's not just Harmony, but Harmony's the one who disappears. But there's drugs, there's people coming in and out, there's firearms, things are being stolen. This is unreal.
It really is, and that's a great way to put it, a house of horrors. I've been covering that gun trial, and one of the things that we're hearing is that Adam Montgomery himself was having major issues with his addiction, and he was just sort of out of control in that period of time. You know, this gun case this trial that's going on right now is not related to Harmony, but Harmony, her ghost kind of hovers over this entire thing, because what we're talking about are the last months of Harmony Montgomery's life, and they're in that takes place inside that house on Guilford Street, where you're hearing the allegations of guns being run out of there, of people doing drugs left and right, people coming and going. And in the middle of all that is little Harmony and at least one of Kayla's other children. It's just hard to wrap your head around this.
Absolutely. Erica Morris, it gets worse, obviously. Let me read for you this. This is from an affidavit. Adam's uncle, Kevin Montgomery, said he returned to Manchester in July of 2019 after a trip to Florida and observed Harmony with a black eye. Kevin said that Adam told him he had caused the injury to Harmony. At the time, he said, I quote, I bashed her around the house. Uncle Kevin also recalled Harmony being spanked hard on the butt, Harmony being forced to stand in the corner for hours, and Adam ordering Harmony to scrub the toilet with her toothbrush. 5 years old, Erica.
We've talked about this before, Vinny, and this was no environment for 3 tender-age children. This just was not. I had actually written it down on a Post-it note earlier, Kayla's statement. It was just chaos in the house that night. That really stood out to me. I think it was chaos in the house every night. I don't think that one particular night stood out. I think that is the environment in which these children lived. We know this from the fact that it was almost 2 years to the time that Harmony was even reported missing. We'll say it again, not by a relative, but by a DCS or an FSSA worker who caught Kayla lying about those benefits. This was just the most heartbreaking situation. No place for 3 tender-age children to be. Constant chaos, weapons, drugs, people in and out. If Kayla hadn't already told us that Adam killed her, we could have a dozen different suspects just from the amount of traffic going in and out of that home.
Joseph Scott Morgan, people are going to get even more angry now. Let me play for you the New Hampshire Attorney General here when he announced the charges against Adam for the murder.
Specifically, Mr. Montgomery has been charged with the following 4 crimes. Second-degree murder, for recklessly causing the death of Harmony Montgomery, a person under 13 years of age, under circumstances manifesting an extreme indifference to the value of human life, by repeatedly striking Harmony in the head with a closed fist in Manchester on or about December 7, 2019.
Okay, we heard Uncle Kevin's, quoting Adam, I bashed her around the house. Now we've got the Attorney General, Joseph, talking about 5-year-old Harmony being struck in the head with a closed fist, causing the death of Harmony. What does it take to take the life of a 5-year-old girl with a closed fist?
Not much on the part of a grown man, particularly a man so prone and used to violence, Vin. Back on June 16th, 2022, Bob Ward, who's on with us tonight, posted an image on Twitter of the interior of this apartment that they lived in. And it's absolutely deplorable. But the one thing that you can take away from this image is the fact that when the police served a warrant in this place, they were looking for particulate evidence, it would appear. These photos were essentially provided by this kind of anonymous person named Ginger at the time. And the tile is gone. I think that there's some indication that a refrigerator may have been replaced, may have been used to facilitate something rather ominous at that particular time. And, we go back to the intensity that the police were working this scene. Remember, they put the tent up in the backyard, approximating this time. They even had the cameras, Vin, that went down into the sewer. They were grasping for anything that they could find, some remnant of Harmony, this poor child who's already impacted by this disability she has. She is totally and completely, Vin, at the mercy of these people indwelling this environment that just lived in these, I don't know how to, just deplorable conditions, and deplorable in the worst way, evil, that they were exposing this child to day in and day out. And Lord only knows who could have had their hands on this child at any given time.
Absolutely, and we saw those images actually from the I think it's the Union Street apartment that they were living in, and we're going to get into that scene coming up in just a little bit, plus coming up next hour. In Birmingham, Alabama, the family of Natalie Holloway, who disappeared in Aruba in 2005, anxiously await the extradition of her suspected killer, Joran van der Sloot, to the United States. We are live from the courthouse with all the latest details.
Van der Sloot, what do you have to say? Your husband is being. Why you kill her?
It's a case that made national headlines.
Where's your daughter so we can check on her? I have nothing to say.
But before he faces a jury for the murder of his own daughter, Adam Montgomery will stand trial on weapons charges.
He's already got a rap sheet the length of his arm.
His estranged wife, Kayla, is expected to testify against him.
This is one of the things that we're watching very closely.
Our cameras will be inside that courtroom, bringing you every dramatic moment.
The Adam Montgomery weapons trial. Live coverage continues tomorrow morning on Court TV.
Investigators believe that Harmony disappeared within 2 weeks of her family being evicted from their home here on Guilford Street in Manchester.
There's Matt Johnson on the scene. So they get evicted, right? And the question is, what happens to Harmony? Where is she? How did she disappear? When did she disappear? Well, of course, when you do the investigation, you're going to speak to the two people in the house, the adults, right? Adam and Kayla. Take a look, because their stories didn't really line up in the initial investigation. You've got Adam's wife, Kayla Montgomery. He asked, the last time she had physically seen him, Harmony, Kayla said that sometime in November or December, she saw Harmony one morning prior to going to work. Adam said he was driving Harmony back to Crystal, who is Harmony's mom, who was living in Lowell, Massachusetts. Adam said that he had not seen Harmony since Crystal came to pick her up in Manchester around Thanksgiving. Well, the stories don't make sense. They don't line up. So then Kayla gave a more detailed statement, saying on the day after Thanksgiving in 2019, Adam dropped her off at work, meaning Kayla was dropped off at work, and said he was going to bring Harmony to her mother to live with her. Kayla stated that she had not seen Harmony since that day. So you've got inconsistent statements, you've got lies. So when Adam Montgomery's questioned by police, they confront him with this. Take a listen.
I already told you the other day what transpired. So we didn't even go to her mother's house.
Okay, who didn't go to her mother's house?
Harmony was on.
Okay, so Harmony didn't go to Chris's house. So explain to me how she didn't end up going to Chris's house.
I've already explained this to you.
Okay.
Well, there's some discrepancies between what you're telling us and what other people are telling us. You're saying you brought her down to Mass. Somebody said she came up from Mass.
I never once said I brought her down to Mass.
What did you say? She came up here to get her?
I never once said. I was audio and video recorded the other day. I never once said I went down to Mass.
So you're saying that she came up from Mass?
I'm not saying anything else.
Why is it that you refuse to talk about her every time we bring her up?
Because you guys are just sitting here beating a bush. It's over and over. You guys asked me what happened the other day. I told you what happened.
You wouldn't tell us the other day.
You guys talked to me the other day. I explained to him what happened the other day. And now it was just a charade. Yep. No, don't worry about it. You're not under arrest. And I'll come up with some.
Arrest you?
No, the other day. No, but then you had a fucking SWAT team roll up on me and the D-Techs follow me around for the last 3 days.
Yeah, people are coming out of the woodwork. That's what we're trying to tell you. Like, we don't want you to be painted as a monster. We want you to maybe explain yourself a little bit and give us some side of your story. We have nothing. We have just what we're hearing from people. $40,000 to drag a lot of people out, whether you believe you're your friends or not.
No, I bet
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, I know it is. Absolutely it is.
That's what we're trying to get. Now's your time. Like, you keep locking up on us. You don't want to tell us anything about her.
I got nothing else to say.
I think he's used that line before, right? This guy, career criminal. Let's bring back in our guests, Joseph Scott Morgan, Erica Morris, and Bob Ward from Boston 25. So, Bob, Crystal, the mom, I mean, there was no exchange. She didn't have custody. No. That was all made up, right?
That's right. That's right. And that was corroborated because Crystal had a boyfriend at the time who she lived with in Lowell, Massachusetts. The police went to talk to him, and he said he never saw Harmony. So Harmony never made it to Lowell, Massachusetts. Crystal was telling the truth. It's been corroborated. There was no exchange of Harmony to Crystal Sorey. That plainly did not happen. And I think what you see in that interrogation is Adam knows that, and he's just doing whatever he can to deflect away from the truth of the matter is that he did not hand over his daughter to her mother.
So, Erica, at this point, I mean, as chaotic as their life was, now they're getting evicted from the home, and everything is kind of in turmoil. Yet it seems investigators are pretty clear. They believe the murder took place on the 7th of December.
You know, again, and Joseph referenced it earlier, they took a lot from that house, from the apartment in the June search last year, from floorboards to wall boards to the refrigerator. I believe they searched a drain. There was something biological particulate that indicated either time of death or someone, another witness maybe that we don't know about, has provided a more accurate timeline, because I don't trust the timeline from either one of them. I mean, from Kayla or Adam, simply because of the amount of drugs that were being used. We cannot accept their timeline as satisfactory. So there has to be some type of biological or perhaps digital evidence that we don't know about yet that has placed this event on the 7th for them to be so specific about that date.
So here's Kayla Montgomery explaining to the jury in the weapons trial why she lies.
How did you come to be there for that proffer?
Because I got subpoenaed to be questioned about Harmony, and I lied to the grand jury because I was scared.
So let me back up. Had you been charged with a crime prior to meeting for that proffer?
Yes.
Prior to meeting for that proffer, you said, I think you had been charged with a crime?
Yes.
Do you remember what you had been charged with?
Welfare fraud.
Anything else?
And 2 counts of receiving stolen property.
And do you remember being charged with perjury as well?
Yes.
Justice Scott Morgan, one of the challenges here is trying to get to the bottom of everything, right? Trying to get to the truth. But I mean, even people who are cooperating, you know, you got to figure out when can you believe what they're saying. You know, you've got to trust the words of an admitted perjurer in front of the grand jury who was getting welfare payments while Harmony was missing. So it's tough. Why do you think that she's not been found? Why we haven't been able to find her?
For me, I think that, and she's, and I hate to say this, but I think that something more horrific than we can ever begin to imagine took place in that apartment. That's just my gut feeling about this. That in some way they attempted to dispose of Harmony's remains and put as much distance between themselves and her remains as possible. That's what I believe. And she was spirited off somewhere. They took her and disposed of her in some manner. In what manner, I don't know. It was mentioned about the search for biological evidence at the scene. And here's the thing. When an individual is domiciled at a location, you expect to find their DNA in that location, okay? Just touch DNA, those sorts of things that are consistent with a life being lived, right? But when you begin to think about the sourcing of DNA, like this, you begin to think about, well, if you have a large volume of blood, that's not something that is considered to be normal, for instance, and I have no evidence that they had that much blood, but you begin to put things together relative to what may have happened. And then when you think about searching in places like drains, again, it sends a chill up my spine as a death investigator, because I think that something sinister could have happened. And they have some kind of insight, some kind of information to this. And I think down the tracks, this may be revealed.
Yeah. As I started this whole hour off, I think she knows just about everything, and I don't understand.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Why they haven't been able to find her if she is fully cooperating in all this, which should be her obligations in all of this. Okay, our guests are staying with us. When we come back, we're going to continue. We're going to take a look at that search for Harmony. We're going to take you to that apartment and get some more information there. We'll be right back.
Can you make me a promise? Like, man to man? Can you tell me that she's alive?
You're gonna play the same word games that you played with me the other day?
It's not word games.
I got nothing.
Because we care, man. We want to know.
This isn't gonna go anywhere. Like, this isn't gonna stop. So
No, it's not.
So either get on the bus now or get run over.
Well, I got nothing else to say.
Why is it you have so much trouble talking about Harmony?
I got nothing else to say.
On the next episode of Accomplice to Murder.
Renee and Brett met when they were in high school.
Most of the time they were at each other's throats. She was having an affair.
They were celebrating their anniversary right before her boyfriend confronted them on the beach and shot him.
She had to be a part of it.
I just knew that he was going to kill me next.
Did you kill Brent Poole?
Absolutely not.
Accomplice to Murder with Vanny Politan. All new episode, Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
Adam and Kayla Montgomery moved to 644 Union Street here in Manchester in December 2019. Almost a year later, October 2020, they were evicted. Neighbors in this area say that they never saw Harmony. This community is still devastated with the loss of Harmony, her body not yet been found. This is one of 2 memorials out in front of the last place that she may have lived, with Kayla and Adam Montgomery.
Matt Johnson up there in Manchester, day off from the trial today, but going around the neighborhoods showing us where all this stuff is taking place. I want to go through a timeline because I think it's significant here in this search for Harmony Montgomery. You've got April 2019, Harmony's mom, Crystal Soares, that's her last communication with Harmony. It's around Easter time. November 2019, Adam Montgomery and Kayla evicted from that Guilford Street home. In December of 2021, Manchester police announced they received a report that Harmony had not been seen since 2019. In 2022, they searched the Guilford Street home, but then in June of 2022, police searched Adam and Kayla's former Union Street home, where we just saw Matt Johnson. Let's bring back in our guests, Joseph Scott Morgan, Erica Morse, and Bob Ward from Boston 25. Bob, take us inside that apartment. Take us there. What
Sure.
was it like? What did they find? And when did they start living there?
Well, that is kind of, I'm not really clear on that. Last week during the trial, there was some testimony that they didn't move into that apartment until March of 2020. So, you know, maybe there's some new information that they moved there earlier than that, but that's what was brought up at the trial, and that's kind of what we had been looking at straight through as we were trying to figure out why that interest in that apartment, because it's 3 months after she's last seen. It's one of those little mysteries in this case. So the day after the search, I was able to get inside the apartment, and I'm the only one that got in there. It is a small 1-bedroom unit. I got in there the day after the search, and already the landlord was making renovations and trying to get things back in order. And there you see the bedroom closet that was pulled apart. The tenant who was there last year told us they took all of her things out and that they took some pieces from inside, like I think it was in the ceiling of the closet. They took some items out of that. You can see wherever you see floorboards in my pictures, that's where they either took the carpet or they picked up tile and they just took it right out of the apartment. So I remember they took floor carpet from the bottom of the floor in the bedroom closet into a hallway, a very narrow and short hallway, and then into the kitchen itself. They took pieces of tile or carpeting that was in front of the sink area, around the refrigerator, and then if you have the kitchen right in front of you, you go to the right. As you go out, the bathroom is behind the kitchen. We didn't take any pictures of it. We didn't have a lot of time in there. We had to work fast. But the tenant said they also were taking pieces of pipe from the bathroom, and that's such a chilling thing to even consider what that means. The refrigerator you see there in my pictures, that is the replacement refrigerator that the police or the FBI brought to the apartment after they took the refrigerator that was inside the apartment. And you know, when you start putting this together, and your guest talked about the search in the sewer, now we know that they searched pipes in the bathroom. You talk about that refrigerator. It's just, I'm tempted not to connect those dots because it is so awful what that might mean. If Harmony was in that refrigerator after she was killed, I have a hard time putting that together because it is such a tiny apartment to have 2 adults, 2 or 3 other kids in there. It's cramped anyway, and it just, I hope that's not where this is leading, but it makes you wonder what is happening. Now, in addition to all that, Adam Montgomery had access to, I believe, 2 vehicles, and they found those vehicles very early on, and those cars are still in the custody of the police. So putting it together, after Guilford Street, after they left Guilford Street, they were evicted from there. They had no place to go for a period of time. I interviewed Kayla's mother. And when I say interview, I meant shouted questions to her, and she took a couple of questions. She answered them. And she remembers the Adam and Kayla bringing the kids, including Harmony, to her apartment on the west side of Manchester at around Thanksgiving, asking if they could come to Thanksgiving, if they might be able to stay a while because they were going to be kicked out of the apartment. So at some point it goes Guilford Street to living in a car to getting to that Union Street apartment. We know they have the car. We know they have the refrigerator. We know they searched in the sewer, and we know they searched in those pipes. And then not too long ago, just a few weeks ago, the police were in Revere, Massachusetts, which is just north of Boston, and they were searching in the marshes out there as well. So it's just an awful set of facts. There's the refrigerator being loaded onto the evidence wagon being taken out of there. And I'll tell you, Vinny, all of us in the media were stunned to see that. I've been doing this a long time, and I haven't seen something like that happen. And what it suggests here is just truly awful.
Beyond awful. Joseph Scott Morgan, putting these pieces together, what images are coming to your mind right now?
Okay, let's just don't use this case. Let's just talk about cases that you and I have covered. And we've covered cases before in our long history together, Vin, involving drains and sinks and bathtubs and this sort of thing. One of the main things that you begin to think about from an evidentiary standpoint is you want to get to what are referred to as the drain traps. That's the curved areas beneath sinks, within tubs, to get to that interior plumbing, because those areas trap bits of what we would consider it's an evidence-rich environment. Now, some of it can be compromised. So once you get your hands on that as an investigator, that's something that you're going to protect as best you possibly can, and it will be analyzed very carefully. That's my thought when we begin to talk about drain pipes. And certainly there are many other cases where I've had entire floors that have been ripped up out of apartments, either involving tile, wood flooring, because you get down into cracks and crevices. You think about carpeting. Carpeting is like a big sponge, because not only do you get wet sample out of there that will dry, you also get fiber evidence out of there, hair, that sort of thing, skin samples, those sorts of things. So all of this is going to go back to the state crime lab, and they will have gone over that with a fine-tooth comb. I think that that's very important to keep in mind. And to the point that was made about the fridge, listen, police generally don't do something particularly, this I don't want to use the term bold, but you're not typically going to see a group of crime scene investigators wheeling a refrigerator down the street that's wrapped in plastic, okay? They see value in that for some reason. They're just not going to arbitrarily take that. I can't even remember cases in the past where I've seen that happen. I know that it probably has. I've had freezers removed, but a refrigerator itself, I think that that's rather curious considering how small this area is. And this all comes down to time and containment. If something nefarious has happened in that apartment, many times people will look to something like a cooling system, like a refrigerator or a freezer, in order to hold a biological sample of some kind, in this case, thinking about Harmony, until they can decide what to do. And when that happens, it remains contact the interior of that environment. And again, that's a potential evidence-rich environment.
All right, we've got more to get to in the life of Harmony Montgomery, the death of Harmony Montgomery, the search for Harmony Montgomery, plus coming up next hour. In Palm Beach County, Florida, former NFL player Travis Rudolph is confronted by 4 men at his house, sent there by his estranged girlfriend Dominique Jones. Rudolph ends up shooting at the men, killing one of them, and is charged with murder. But he claims self-defense. All the evidence is in, and it's time for the jury to speak.
I didn't know any better. I was watching an episode of The Sopranos. Just the names changed. Somebody disrespected a mobster's daughter, and they went to go whack him. To go kill him. That's what this case really is.
I started hearing these stories about murder and stuff.
I'm about to be the biggest drug dealer that you can become.
Oh my God, are they starting a war with me or what?
I'm not gonna lie, it felt good to be a gangster.
She just points the gun right in my face.
Boom, 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 boom.
Just shoots me.
We knew that what we were doing had consequences, but we just didn't care.
Vice on Court TV, weeknights at 7, 6 Central, only on Court TV.
towards her. All right, I got nothing to say. Adam, right? Montgomery. Yeah. Do you remember me from the Elliott Hospital from a while back, man? Yeah, I got nothing to say. Right. So, hey, man, the only thing we're trying to figure out is where Harmony is, okay? Okay. So, the concern is that you guys are sick, right? Okay. You're not in trouble. Nobody said you're losing your daughter, okay? So I want to make that clear. Okay. So, I have my body cam on, just like everybody else is being on video recording. So you just need to find out where she is. That's all I'm concerned about. You're not in any trouble right now that I know of. Okay. We have no warrants. Okay. So, where's your daughter so we can check on her to make sure that she's okay? Right now, I have nothing to say to you guys. But that's not what I'm just asking where she is. I have nothing to say. So you don't care if your daughter's okay or not? I do. Listen, I have nothing to say. Is your daughter... If I'm under arrest, you guys can arrest me?
I told you he's used that line many, many times before. I've got nothing to say. I mean, par for the course for a career criminal. I want you to take a listen. This is Mike Sullivan, testified in the trial and spoke to Matt Johnson afterwards, talking about what it was like inside that house. Take a listen.
Did you see Harmony at all in your interactions with Adam?
So, I'm not coming back to this place after this, right? But, like, Adam, the reason why we ended up having, our falling out, a lot of us was because we were, my house used to be where everybody, partied at, And there was a day we were all hanging out, and we were there for, probably three and a half hours, And, he said, I got to go check on my daughter. She's in the car, So, and a bunch of us kind of got upset with him because we found out that his daughter had been sitting in the car for 3.5 hours, So, and then that day that I had gone over to his house, when he referenced the AR-15 in the back, he had all kinds of stuff out around his daughter,
She was there?
All kinds of stuff around his, all kinds of paraphernalia.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's bring back in our guests, Justice Scott Morgan, Erica Morris, Bob Ward. Erica, I listened to that, and I still think about this child. A child will love and trust their father. That's just how they're born, and they look to her, and she just sat in that car for 3.5 hours while dad is inside doing his drugs.
Benny, I have worked with hundreds, if not more, parents of missing kids and, specialize in working with fathers with missing daughters. His responses, his reactions, those are not responses of a caring father who is concerned about his daughter's well-being. It just isn't. He's a really bad liar. He's a really bad criminal. And unfortunately, when this disappearance was first reported back in 21, we talked about this, and I said, I don't think this is going to be a good outcome because statistically, we already knew what we were looking at here. Of course, he didn't care about her sitting in a car for 3.5 hours. She was his punching bag. He's been arrested for giving her a black eye before. He's been arrested for, and also let's keep in mind that one of his charges right now is abuse of a corpse. So not concealment, but abuse. This little girl at her tender age of 5 years old lost her life by the hands of her father. And there is no way to get around that. It is just sad. And all I can hope for as an advocate and somebody who works with these families is that something will be learned by another parent from this horrendous situation.
Bob Ward, we only have about 20 seconds here, but what are the thoughts there? The community so impacted by all of this.
Yeah, they are. They raised $150,000 in reward money to try to find Harmony Montgomery. Everywhere you go, people up in New Hampshire still express concern about her, even though the Attorney General says that they have biological evidence to show that Harmony is no longer with us. It's a high interest case. everyone in New Hampshire cares about this little girl. And I will say one thing, there is one bright spot in all of this. And those beautiful pictures that you're showing of Harmony Montgomery, those were taken by her foster parents, and they loved her.
Absolutely.
And they are just devastated by what has happened. And there was an attempt by other people close to me who were trying to were interested in adopting Harmony, but it just didn't work that way. Yeah. The courts went a different way, and it's just a horrible case all around.
We are out of time. Bob Ward, Boston 25, Erica Morse, Victim News Online, Joseph Scott Morgan, Body Bags Podcast. We'll see you again soon.